Okay, hopefully this works. I've set up quite the contraption here to try to record this, a field report due to a trashy deleted tweet. I was told that under all circumstances, we must get a Tabuchi report, even though I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere. Okay, so Suzuka Tabuchi fought in a karate tournament for the Kyokushin Kaiken March 13th. She placed first. Her brother also fought and placed second for their weight category for a regional tournament. They also fought in a Kyushu Cup tournament. They both placed, but neither won. And then Kanta Tabuchi will be fighting Ozaki at Rise 156. And Suzuka Tabuchi recently lost a kickboxing fight in shoot boxing. So and I believe she fought one time before that. So as always, in between each episode, they fight about 4 times. Anyway, on with the show. I hope that recorded.
First of all, the podcast about kickboxing legal team, I hired them. They were presented to me as a crack team of lawyers from Holland. I didn't realize at the time that meant that they were lawyers from Holland who were kickboxers and therefore also sold crack. But they told me to get out ahead of some things we may have said on the last episode. First of all, I never said that. I was hacked. I was taken out of context. I wasn't read my rights properly when I said that it was a bad, stupid idea for Tetsuya Yamato to be in a title fight. Since he won that, it was actually a good idea. It was fine to cry during the press conference. All of that was perfectly good. And that's what I meant when I spent 15 minutes saying how stupid and terrible it was.
What a cope. And we're back.
And we are back. Apologies if you hear train noises or anything else. I've moved to a new place. I have a microphone clamped to the kitchen table, naturally. So there's only so much I can edit around. But I hope it's fine. And I hope everybody is recovering from a big weekend of everybody having their own gigantic shows. Where should we begin?
K-Festa 5, probably a good place to start.
Well, no, let's, even before that. So there were 2 fights that we talked about before. We said that Yuki Yoza had a real chance of beating Taio Asahisa, and he did. And it was a fantastic fight. And if you haven't watched that, go ahead and do it. But, man, just shows you what you can get when it's not just predatory matchmaking. Just 2 guys extremely good at what they do. Pleasure to watch. I loved it. I didn't love that he's not the champion, but we'll sweep that under the rug.
I won't. I'm going to bitch about non-title fights this whole goddamn show. This is once again what I talked about at the time, why it's so stupid. Because now you're in a situation where Taio is lost, but he's still the champ. So now they're... But the thing is, you would think, okay, so that means they have to do an immediate rematch for the title, but the same thing happened with Taio versus Hayashi, and then they just didn't do that. So there's sort of, you can say there's precedent, but there's also not, because they just tend to do whatever the fuck they want, regardless. Yeah, it was a great fight. I mean, that was what I was expecting Taio's hands to still be way ahead of Yoza's, who's still getting used to gloves and no clinch rule. So I was still expecting Taio to pull out, a close decision because of that. But it seems like Yoza was able to just nullify him in, forearm to forearm a lot better than I thought he could. But I told people not to be surprised if that happened just because stylistically it is a nightmare matchup. Like, Taio usually beats people through knowledge gaps. He, lots of just like snap front kicks to the face and, weird feints and using a lot of, non-committal like karate low kicks the same way Noiri does. That shit's not going to work against Yoza, who's way better at it than Taio. He's the world champ for lightweight.
Yeah, and indeed it did not work. And one of the things that really stood out to me was the work that Yoza did, like counter kicking the planted leg, like really fucked Taio's knee up at one point. Like, he really was not comfortable with it. It was just, theoretically, guys of the same base style applied in completely different ways with changing tactics to get through what is ultimately a very short fight, but they really put it on each other, and it was just, oh man, I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. And it's good that you brought that up, because that's actually like a really important core drill that, at least in the gyms I've been to in my life, I haven't seen anyone do it outside of Kyokushin, even other karate schools. I've not seen it. Where basically you stand completely squared to each other, and you do like a chambered non-commit low kick to the inside leg, and then you do that back and forth one side, and then you go, okay, you throw cross to the other leg, and the other one tries to interrupt them by kicking the back leg. And again, there's no power. They're not throwing their hips into it. It's just like chambered kicks, like I've described before. And you're trying to trip the other one or interrupt them. And then you'll add a third one to it. Once you get good at that, you add a third one to it, where the one who is countering gets countered, where you sweep with the instep of your foot right when they go to counter. And eventually you get to 4, where there's 4 counters back and forth, and you're just trying to interrupt the low kick or counter their counter or make them fall, right? And it's with no power. And we do this drill all the time. Like, I've never seen a better example of that than Yoza versus Taio. Every time Taio tried to kick or move or interrupt his kick, what happened? He got launched on his ass, because Yoza's the king at that. That drill, that way of kicking, he's just way better than Taio at it. And you could see Taio's frustration in the first round, where every time he tried to play that game, like he did it to Gonapar all the time, you could catch him with it. But when he tried it with Yoza, he would counter his counter and just knock him straight on his ass, because he spent decades doing that drill every day. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it was,
like you could
see
see the difference
Yeah.
between a guy who is, obviously outstanding at the style, and a guy who is like outstanding times 2 with the style. It was like just real fine adjustments made the difference. It was, even to someone who doesn't know what they're looking at, it was like, wow, I'm seeing something special here.
Yeah, I must say, because I'm very, very high on Asahisa Dojo, I'm a little surprised that there was no game plan for this scenario. I think they thought too much that Yoza's not used to the rules, and that they could, batter through with their punches, which I guess isn't a horrible assumption. I thought that would probably still be the case. But I'm a little surprised there was no game plan for, if we get in this situation, what do we do? It seemed like by halfway through the second round, it was just like stay the course. Like there was no course correction attempt, I feel like. Or maybe his legs were just too shot. But I hope if they fight again, Mr. Asahisa has a slightly better game plan for that type of opponent.
Yeah, I mean, I know Taio is at the best of times kind of a salty kind of guy, does not like to lose. He said that he wasn't able to train properly due to personal circumstances. No idea what that means, but
yeah, he looked in the normal shape he usually is, and his brother was in amazing shape for his fight, and they trained together, so
they're not guys that
but
slack off. I think he just has trouble accepting losing, which is fine. Like, with that level, an athlete with that much confidence, that much skill, I get it.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing on that card, obviously, was a stupid-ass tournament. Finals went, the 2 participants as expected. I did not expect Kaneko to win. I didn't think he won after 3, but apparently he did. I was like expecting for all the world there to be, these baked in automatic extension rounds, but no. So new champion. Okay.
Jeez. I think something I've noticed, I noticed it now in the Taio versus Gonapar fight. And I don't even think it's necessarily just because it's a title fight. There seems to be sort of a proclivity that unless something drastic happens in the first round, they tend to give it even. Because when I watched the Taio versus Gonapar fight, I thought the same thing. Like, there's no way that Taio didn't win round 1 and round 3. But I'm sort of noticing a trend, not just this one and then the Kaneko one. It seems like if nothing drastic happens when we get like the full scorecards after the fact, they usually got the first round even. And I think that played a huge role in why Kaneko got the nod. I think for whatever reason, round two, even if it's like one punch difference, they'll give it a 10-9. But they are really hesitant to give the first round anything but 10-10 unless something, or like even, unless something extraordinary happens. I don't know why that is. It's just a trend I've noticed that this is a couple times that's happened.
Well, I mean, I don't want to paint them all with the same brush, but I know it's not FEG anymore. I know there's probably a lot of different people doing judging, doing reffing, so on, but I always remember when they started doing open scoring and they had the Zambitis Chahid fight, and it was just insanity. So they, they rendered a mathematically impossible decision in order to extend it. And I think there's an element of TV drama that persists. Anyway, also had K-Festa 5, which I was real down on before it happened. And yeah, it was okay. There was some good stuff there. Your best friend, your favorite fighter in the world, Ryo Aitaka, did his thing.
Unfucking believable, man. That was an amazing fight. When you really think about it, it's like two guys, like one guy who just married an idol and then suddenly forgot how to throw a hook, and then another guy who's just used to be one of the best Kudo fighters ever and then discovered the bottle. Like a battle of there's nowhere to go after this.
I think the sloppy bar fighting style that he has developed over the years of punishing his liver helped him finish this fight. Just comical looking hook.
Oh yeah, Aitaka like missed by a mile, and he just like check hooked him really short, almost like a bitch slap, and flatlined him. It was pretty hilarious. But you're missing a fight before this. That's very important to me.
So yes, talk about your karate man and his floppy opponent.
Okay, so Ryunosuke Hoshi made his debut from Power of Dream. He was sort of a surprise addition to this card. I had no idea he had even left karate. So in 2019, the last All Japan that we had before COVID, screwed everything up, or 2020, sorry. He was like the poster boy because all the other Japanese heavyweights had retired or weren't going to be fighting. He was on the cover of Karate World magazine. They were pushing him as like he's the great Japanese hope or whatever you want to call it that was going to beat Kovalenko and keep the title in Japan. And he ended up not placing in that tournament. He lost to a lightweight, even though he's over 200 pounds. So he lost to someone who's like 150. Didn't go over well at all. There was many a mockery on Twitter, and he sort of disappeared. And I figured he's just regrouping. He's going to wait for the next All Japan because it got delayed, and the 2021 got delayed till April this year. And then randomly, with no fanfare or announcement, he doesn't even have a Twitter. He's Power of Dream announced that he's with them and he's coming to fight Rui, the greatest fighter of all time. So that was already strange enough because I don't know where the hell that came from. But then he fought Rui, Mr. Influencer Jim, and he looked kind of awkward. I don't know how long he got to train under kickboxing rules, and he got Rui on the ropes, and he jabbed him once in the face, and Rui collapsed to the ground like he'd been shot with a slug shotgun in the throat, and wobbled and couldn't stand up, and they had to carry him out of the ring.
Oh man, I didn't see that. Like we talked about it.
Very fucking weird.
Yeah, and like I've seen him go down to a jab before, so I was like, it's Rui, it's his thing. But I was watching live on YouTube, and you told me like, this thing looked kind of fishy. So I scrubbed back and I saw it. I didn't see that he had to get stretchered out.
No, he didn't get stretchered out, but like he had to like have both arms around his trainer's shoulders, right?
Huh. Okay.
Like he couldn't get out of the ring by himself, is what I mean. He didn't get stretchered out, but like he was still, even after he got out of the ring, like holding on to people to walk and act and. Like,
I think on his best day, he looks like a baby giraffe anyway.
I'm not saying because it would be ridiculous because Hoshi would have no promotional value to K1. There'd be no reason to fix this fight. That's not what I'm saying. It was just hella sus. Like, I think Rui went in there and was like, I'm going to get paid today.
Yeah.
The first hit he took, he pretended it flattened him.
Yeah, and it wasn't like an immediate reaction. It was like, oh, this is the one, I can do it.
It was delayed. Yeah, it was delayed, and I don't know, man. It was very sketchy. Kind of a sad debut for Hoshi. He didn't look super strong. He looked pretty awkward with the gloves on, but I mean, for all I know, he could have only had like a month to train, because there was just no fanfare or sort of. This announcement came out of nowhere, so it was just a weird one.
And then Animal Koji and Seiya Tanigawa. Kind of surprised Tanigawa like went the distance. It's a guy I think
got dropped too.
Yeah, like it's a guy he should not struggle with, but did.
Tanigawa, from all the fights I've watched of him, even going back when he started kickboxing, even to his Shinsei Kai karate career, the defining things about his career seems to be that he's got unbelievable combos for a guy his size and his body fat percentage, and he can move pretty well. But he has absolutely no chin at all. Any punch that lands clean at all sends him flying into the wall. And that has haunted him for a while. He lost to, I can't remember the guy's name, but there was some incredibly unimpressive, like very overweight karate guy from an organization I'd never heard of, who was doing kickboxing matches, and it seemed like he just kind of showed up and put the gloves on, and he actually knocked out Tanigawa in one of Tanigawa's first kickboxing fights. It seems to be weirdly inconsistent, where Tanigawa will beat people I think he probably should get caught by, and then he gets caught by people that he should wipe the floor with. It's just, I think, you're born with what you're born with, and he was not graced with an iron chin. I don't know if like it got smashed during his karate days, because a lot of his fights in that smaller organization never made it to video, right? I'd say like 90% of his career is not on video. But it seems like any good shot at all, and he's down. So he got dropped by Animal Koji. And again, not a huge shot.
Yeah, later in the evening, he was also getting dropped by, obviously a guy with a lot of power, but they weren't shots landing cleanly. And I think...
yeah, that's what I mean. It doesn't seem to take much.
Yeah. I mean, he also got dropped by another big, huge, fat guy, former big, huge, fat guy, and Shinya Uemura. Yeah,
that's another one that's just like a flash down.
Well, yeah, it's a fight he should have won pretty easily and didn't.
Yeah, no, and that's the fight I always bring up, is why judging is so stupid on the 10-point must system, because every other second of that fight, Tanigawa was beating his ass. But Uemura never went down. But he landed one punch, and it floored Tanigawa, and he got a 10 count, or an 8 count, I guess, with K1's rules. And that made it a draw, because then it's, 10-8 versus 2 10-9s.
Yeah.
And it was not a amazing punch. It just seems like he's very bad durability problems. So it's always sort of a coin toss whether his better skill will win him the fight, or if, a flick will land and he goes flying. So he did manage to beat Animal Koji in advance, but when I saw that he had already been down once in the first fight of the tournament, I thought, oh, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, not a great start. But just real quick, did you see that Shinya Uemura is now going to be fighting Jinbo Katsuya? He's at 75 kg now. He's lost like half his body weight.
Yeah, I saw the announcement and thought that doesn't make any sense because of his size. So yeah, he must have been on some major Ramadan
he's lost,
fasting
over 100
for the
pounds.
last months. Holy shit! Yeah, that's
good.
Pretty
good for
amazing.
him, and also strengthens my thesis that anybody above the weight of like roughly Hideaki Yamazaki size is and should be considered on the scale of a heavyweight. And this tournament where they smashed together 3 weight classes and found out that 2 of them completely suck. Speaking of completely sucking, Satoshi Ishii was next against Kosuke Jitsukata. Very, very funny fight. So Ishii won, and as he was knocking the other guy out, got his rib broken at exactly the same time and could not continue. So the curse of us eventually having to watch this guy fight Kyotaro, but having to suffer through like 3-4 fights before they just do the one that they want, continues.
Yeah, all I have to add is I would like to refer to Kosuke from now on as Fat Boy Round Kick. I think that's a good name for him. Yeah, he landed a perfect knee just as he got knocked out. It was very bizarre, and like Ishii immediately went to his corner and started grabbing it. I didn't know it broke, so that's news to me. I never found out why he got pulled.
Yeah, I think he said it was like a real clean break as well, so he doesn't expect it to keep him out for too long. But just
So then Hisaki Kato replaced him.
Yeah. And then there was the other huge fat guy fight, Kyotaro versus Hidenori Sakamoto.
Fat guy round punch.
You know, if they could just combine them, they would have one very large kickboxer.
Yeah, exactly.
We just need a 600-pound division.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. Yeah, so Kyotaro got it done. Again, wasn't super interesting. There's not much to say about. Like, I gave him no chance to begin with. I'm not even sure why he was in the tournament. Sakamoto.
Well,
does he have any notable wins, or?
I
don't think so.
No, isn't he fairly new to the organization? Let me. As a professional commentator on this stuff, I will look him up. Nope, this was his first fight. So yeah, brought in to lose.
And they give him Kyotaro. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then a fight that was made purely for your own delight was Mahmoud Satari versus Keiji. And what a surprise, Keiji got knocked out.
Killed him instantly.
Yeah.
Just absolutely battered him. Like, there was no doubt.
No.
There was no doubt. I mean, Keiji has no chin at all. Satari hits like a truck. The match made in heaven.
Yep. So, as expected, Mahmoud went on. Then Fukashi had another one of those fights. He did win. Good for him. Ruku has I don't know, he's had a bad run. Like, he got sacrificed to Hideaki Yamazaki on, I forget if it was the first K-Festa or like one of the early ones. And then they're like,
he
okay.
got hook kicked in the head.
Yeah. They they gave him some they gave him some like easy wins a bit. He sort of regrouped, went back to Crush, got some pretty good wins, and then he's just been on a tear of just horrific losses.
A tear of losses. That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, so I find Ruku and someone we'll talk about later, Satoru, I don't really know what their place is now, because I feel like every time I see them, they lose. And the only fights they seem to win are when they take guys from outside the organization that come in for like one fight, almost like to lose to them and then leave. They seem to only win those fights. They seem to me like to have not much of a place in the divisions, and I'm not sure what they could do if they should change weight classes or. Well, K1 doesn't really cut fighters the way other promotions do when they're on a big losing streak, but they're guys that might be worth thinking about, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the K1 group as a whole is pretty well apportioned to accommodate a guy who has a ceiling. They have secondary and tertiary organizations. They have agreements with organizations even outside of that where they have some kind of talent sharing stuff, but he just doesn't seem like a popular enough guy for them to slot into a Crush championship or whatever. I mean, maybe he is a Crush champion, I can't remember. Anyway, but he's just not, his whole thing is I'm the crazy boy. It's like
crazy boy. Yeah, crazy at sleep on the fucking floor every fight.
But yeah, if you want to like make it a bit further than that, and he's
crazy
at Purge,
shit,
right?
I don't know. What?
Is he at Purge?
I think so. Maybe that explains why he's so good at eating shit.
Yeah, he's at Purge. Yeah, so his thing is he's at Purge.
I think
he says
they
he's crazy.
train on how to like fall on their face comically and like have the camera zoom in on their lifeless face, like with their eyes rolling around. Like it's, I think they practiced that at Purge.
Well, well, I think you mentioned Rui earlier. I think he's actually just disappeared to the same Fukuoka gym as Keiji, so he's even further out the door.
So what do you think they practice together? Do you think they have to have like mattresses instead of mats when they flick each other's chin in sparring and knock each other out back and forth
Well, like
every punch?
who's even there anymore? Like Kimura's in Okinawa. Kubo is, apologizing for his own stupid shit and like trying the other sport and ruining his knees. Like who's left?
Uh, the guy, God, I can't remember his name right now. The guy that's trashy stands.
That could be one of any of 5,000
Damn
haircut
it.
recipients.
Damn it, I can't remember. I can see like his little yellow-haired bowl cut ass, but I can't remember his name. I thought he left to go to Purge, and he was really upset about it. I can't remember who that is.
Oh, Tetsu. Yeah. So
Yeah,
he
Tetsu.
had a
Didn't
fight
Tetsu do
in
that?
Crush, and his hair was blue this time. And
Yeah.
he got kicked in the
Gender
head and
studies
never recovered.
degree, and then died. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're.
Is he still there?
I think so. He like became a poker guy as well, which is not
Excellent.
a good
That's
omen.
awesome. Trashy knows how to pick him. But yeah, so I apologize, Trashy, that I couldn't remember his name. I'm sleep deprived as shit. But yeah, so I think it's just him. I don't know who's the trainer there anymore.
Oh.
But because wasn't it Kubo?
Yeah, like the whole thing was him and Kimura, and they're just not
So
there
who the hell's
anymore.
even training them? Who's holding the pads? So it might just be Tetsu, like in an empty building, listening to Drake and like shadow boxing around.
See, what they need is a sister gym for the super heavyweights called Binge Tokyo.
Binge Tokyo. There's just like a ramen buffet like built in so they can gain all the weight that they need.
Yeah, and then when you want to, take the alternate Shinya Uemura path and fight someone who's basically a lightweight, go to the other one. Take the drug.
I think what we're realizing is that Purge Tokyo doesn't have a trainer, and this is Trashy's chance to make a name for himself. He's got to get over there and take over the gym.
So next was a fight that was designed to cause me some emotional harm. Kenta Hayashi versus Hayato Suzuki. I've talked before trying to get people to pay attention to Suzuki. He's a guy, I didn't think he was going to win this fight at all. I don't think his hands are particularly good. He has the distinction of being one of the few guys who is, a southpaw body kicker in a sport that is mostly guys just trying to punch each other in the head. Hayashi, obviously, one of those punch each other in the head kind of guys. Really surprised to see him get dropped here. Even more surprised to see him get stopped. And the ref didn't seem interested in letting him do his usual and be on the verge of eating 3 knockdowns. But I didn't think Suzuki had it in him, but he does. So happy for him, sad for my husband. But pretty good fight.
Yeah, it was a good fight. I also didn't think, especially with Suzuki's last couple fights, he's not looked good at all. He lost to Terashima. Sorry, couldn't remember the last name. Terashima he lost to, and he did not look good. And Terashima was coming off a pretty bad loss. And he got dropped in that fight too against Shotokan, bounce and move, hands low type fighter, which I don't think fits too well in the current meta of the way they fight in K1.
Mm.
So I thought if he struggled against that, Hayashi should be able to get it done. I would say that he probably got saved by the ref. I mean, Hayashi had him right where he wanted him. He was just about to break his hand on his skull. And he was about to enter his third form of the boss fight.
He was just filling up his super meter.
No, exactly. He totally had him where he wanted him. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I'm wondering if this is more indicative of how much damage Hayashi's taken and it's finally catching up with him versus how much of it was Suzuki had a really good performance, because Suzuki's looked bad lately. Like, let's be honest. So I was surprised, but I'm wondering how much of that's like a cumulative damage from Hayashi, or we'll have to see with their next fights, right?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
you
there's a
look at
question mark on this fight.
because Daiso Saki, he had a fight with Tofinelli recently, and you could see Tofinelli crack the guy like real hard, and I thought like, oh, he must be on the verge of going down from this, but it never seemed to affect him. Whereas Hayashi had that fight with Tofinelli and like went down hard a couple times. So I do think he's just getting, hurt more by things that wouldn't hurt him before, simply because he's been knocked down 100 times.
Yeah, I feel like that switch kick that broke his jaw was kind of
Yeah.
the push over the hill, I think. I don't think he's looked the same since then.
Yeah, I think, if there's going to be one strike that does it, it's something of that magnitude.
Yeah, I agree.
And then there was 100-year-old Yuji Kyoken Takuchi, a guy who, many, many, many years ago had broken my heart by knocking out Masaki Noidi. But it was in a great fight. There was a crazy double knockdown, but he retired years ago because he was getting ridiculously chinny. I think he retired after fighting Kenta Hayashi, actually. And Hayashi inherited his nickname, but then also another guy was given the nickname, the Toma's brother. So there are now 2 alleged successors to his nickname, and him still fighting. So yeah, anyway, he fought another old guy who is even less good than him, knocked him out. And I think you take issue with the continued existence of one of these men.
Well, I was talking about him earlier, Satoru. It's not Jesus, the way you put it makes you think I want to take him out back and shoot him. The existence of this individual. God damn, dog man. But I wonder what place he has, because he's been in, the Crush tournaments, and he got, knocked out, beat up in those. I've seen him in a lot of fights where he's lost. This is a guy who's been retired for a long time, right? Massive ring rust, comes back, and he gets knocked out by him. It just seems like I don't know what place he has. You know what I mean? It seems like he's just brought in kind of to lose to people. He beat the ancient Yamato, but he's basically lost everybody. He lost to Nakajima, he lost to Naoki Yamamoto, lost to Narufumi, he lost this fight. He lost to Kotaro Shimano, who I'm not super high on at all. It's been a hot minute since he's beat anybody but a dinosaur, and this was another sort of dinosaur fight, and he lost. So it's not. I wonder where he can go from here, or it seems like he's firmly positioned at the bottom of this weight class as the worst guy in right now. So I just wonder, where does he go from here? I don't sort of see a place for him in K1 especially, and then Crush, I guess is the guy the newcomer fights maybe.
Well, yeah. Both of them really don't have much of a place, but now, at least one of them got a win.
Listen. So here's the best way I can put it, right? I feel like we don't talk about it because he just doesn't. He's not in the limelight that much. But to me, he looks to me the same as Saiga, where it's what is his place here? There isn't really one. That's all.
Yeah. Next is a fight I'm absolutely not going to talk about. One of the Takeru hangers-on, Shintaro Matsukura, had a fight.
Could not care less.
Very boring in the bad
Terrible
weight classes. Gongnapa, nice knee knockout against a guy I'm not sure I've ever seen before. Maybe I have, but
gimme fight.
Yeah. And then, because Ishii could not continue, very cool knockout. Seiya Tanegawa kicked Kato upside the head. Didn't see it coming, completely flatlined him. It's the only knockout on this card full of knockouts where I yelled at the television.
The really sort of funny and interesting part about that is the way Kato fell is actually really common in Kudo, and there's a reason for that. So they wear like the spaceman helmets,
Yeah.
right? If you guys have ever seen it. So because I've spent a lot of my life wearing the stupid thing, your peripheral vision is completely gone. You're basically like make a box from the tip of your eyebrows with your hands. That's what you see. Um, so a lot of guys, they sort of like drop on their butt first and then fall down, like it's like a complete gone, because they never see it, because the way that the foot wraps around. So you see like a lot of high kick knockouts in Kudo because they can't see it coming a lot of the times from the angle. So it's just really interesting to me that Kato has done Kudo so long. He's trained himself to not have peripheral vision even when he's not wearing helmets. And he got caught with like the most standard Kyokushin, like throw the hook and then sort of fall off to the side and really chamber that high kick high and then wrap around the back outside the peripheral vision. It was like a perfect shot that Kato has landed in Kudo himself a million times. So it was sort of interesting to see him go down that way. And of course, like he's in his 40s, he's pretty shot. But he did manage to drop Seiya Tanigawa before that.
Yes.
So my God, like Tanigawa has just got no chin at all. But so he'd already taken 2 downs now. His brain's probably still rattled, and then he's got to go into the finals. Yeah, I was pretty confident at that point that he was shit out of luck again.
Well, I mean, the final very obviously became him and Satari for the 3rd time in like 18 months. So
he's got to hate him by now.
Yeah, like poor guy. Maybe we can make Satari for the 4th one wear a Kudo helmet.
Yeah, I think that would be fair. Maybe like one arm tied behind his back.
Yeah, maybe like one of those old diving suits.
No, exactly. I mean, I like Seiya Tanigawa a lot. It's just, it sucks that I feel like this is going to be his position where he can beat everybody except probably the 2 Iranians.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to, I don't think he's going to beat Satari ever. If he was ever going to do it, this was his chance in a tournament format. And he still couldn't do it. And I don't see him beating Cena either with how weak his jaw is. I do not see him surviving Cena's power.
Well, let's not lose sight of the fact that Cena's jaw is also perhaps not the sturdiest.
Okay. But when Tanigawa knocks somebody down or hurts him, it's usually with a kick, right? Do you think he's going to be able to reach him? I don't think he can even kick that high.
Well, maybe.
Cena is so tall. I don't see him knocking Cena out with a punch. Do you?
I do think if they fought 10 times, Cena takes most of them. But, Cena is a guy who is prone to losing via chaos.
I guess. And again, I like Tanigawa a lot. I think he's a very technical fighter with really good fundamentals that combos well in a despicable division of twiggly armed haymaker throwers. So I am happy he's here. He brings a level of technical skill that most of these guys don't have. The problem is just he's not durable at all. And I don't see that he can't overcome that through training. You know what I mean? You get what you get.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is his ceiling. Will be he can challenge for the title, but he'll never win it.
Yeah, and we saw this play out in the Crush tournament as well. Like he's better than the other guys, and then there's a guy at the top that he's not better than and has like a distinct physical special inborn advantage which meshes really badly with his own disadvantage.
Yeah, like he's just not going to beat the guys from Iran unless he's going to come out there. I mean, losing 3 times to Satari. If he loses to Cena on top of that, he's going to come out waving a travel ban petition trying to get his way into the title. But yeah, I don't see it happening. I wish, but it seems like he just doesn't have the durability.
And then the other semifinal, Kyotato, Mahmoud Satari. Satari was slightly less impressive in this one. I mean, Kyotato's whole thing is running away, and he's kind of old, so it's harder for him to run away now, and, doesn't actually offer that much resistance when he's on the losing end. But Satari was really trying to, spinning back kick the guy. tuckered himself out a bit, got a bit tired. I think that's like a potential weakness for him, but 3 fights in one night, 2 of them fairly easy for him. This was the hardest, but it wasn't like hard because the other guy did anything. It's just because he wasn't tall enough to kick him in the face.
Yeah, fair enough. That's pretty much how I feel about it too.
Yeah, so unfortunately, probably not the last we see of Kyotaro, but here's hoping. Then Tatsuya Tsubakihara, Takahito Nimi. Nimi, I think, is an awesome fighter. Always entertaining to watch, but is not best of the best, not top of the top, but he will give any of those guys a fight. And he gave Tsubakihara a fight, and it was good.
Yeah, I think it's just a style clash that was not in his favor at all. I don't think he's exceptionally great at cutting off.
No,
and,
he's
Tsubakihara is just
good on
good
the
on
inside guy, and Tsubakihara is a great on the outside guy.
Exactly. He just couldn't catch him. Same thing that happened to Igawa. Just couldn't catch him.
Yeah. Gunji Taito versus Toma. You know what? I always say Gunji Taito because it sounds better that way. I think it's, in the English way, Taito Gunji. So apologies, I'm always doing some stupid shit, but I didn't think he won this. I thought Toma won.
I didn't catch most of this one, so to be honest, I can't really have an opinion. Like, I did rewatch it after when I got a chance on like a fucking 240p.
Yeah.
On
the day after
cell
special,
phone, but it's not great. So I can't really have an opinion on it. I didn't catch much of that one.
Well, anyway, Gunji did not, blow him out of the water. Not a surprise. Like, Toma's a good fighter, but Nimi beat Toma and dropped him. And I know he's an exceptional talent, but again, stop doing non-title fights. Just stop doing it.
It always puts them in an awkward situation. I don't know why they keep wanting to do that. They seem to almost enjoy being in these weird situations. Yeah.
And then another sad treehouse story. Yuki Egawa finally back after what seemed like a million years out of the ring, finally moving up in weight because he was so colossally huge for the weight class below him. But he did not look good. And I know, Chain Guy has some admirable qualities, like he fights for 9 minutes, he has a great chin, but Egawa just could not do anything.
Yeah, I mean, the Egawa of old that I was expecting to show up, I thought Tsubakihara, just too fast, too good at moving. Egawa couldn't cut him off. He has a lot of useless footwork, bouncing back and forth instead of cutting the ring off. Style matchup nightmare, and he fought him twice. So I thought, Chain Guy, who's high out of his mind every fight and sort of just stands there and takes unbelievable punishment. I thought this was a great fight for Egawa to go back to his old self, combo off hard, beat him to the body, and probably get the full 9 minutes in because Oiwa is never going to go down. It seemed like he just didn't have enough sting on those punches to either get Oiwa off him or make him respect his power, because Chain Guy was throwing back just as hard.
Yeah, he was like really hustling him
Egawa's
around the ring. Like, he was the aggressor.
Yeah.
Like, Egawa...
Yeah, he just didn't have the power to get him to back off. Like, it seemed like his power did not come up in weight with him at all.
No. And I don't think he looks physically as big or as sharp as he used to either.
No, I don't think moving up was a good idea. Like, he literally, in my opinion, lost to Tsubakihara twice, said, fuck it, I'm going up a weight class, I can't beat him. It was kind of short-sighted because, like, Tsubakihara lost it pretty soon after. And I think some of the other people that might have the title by the time he gets back to a title shot are more favorable. So I don't think, sort of going, all right, fuck it, I'm out, was a good decision. Mm-hmm. I never thought that was a good decision to go up, especially with how many killers are in that weight class. And but I thought he'd beat Chain Guy because I thought that was stylistically a perfect matchup.
Yeah.
And he didn't win. So if that doesn't work out for him, go back down, man. Don't try somebody else in this weight class. You'll die.
He just doesn't have the physical advantages that he had before. And whether that is due to some like change in the training environment or whatever. I know he goes to the boxing gym sometimes with Take, but yeah, he just, whatever he had before, he didn't seem to have it now. And it's kind of sad, but I hope he gets back to whatever that was. But this was pretty depressing to watch.
Yeah, and if he lost a chain guy, like where do you go from here? Like, can you imagine him fighting Asahisa?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where do you go from there? And this, like, go back down, man. This division is too high for him right now, I think.
Which brings us to another former 57.5 kg champion who has come up to 60. He immediately got a fight with Takeru. Looked pretty good. Some people thought he won. Takeru wins by majority decision. Yeah, he did. He deserved to win. He
won that fight. He won 2 rounds.
There are people in this division who are too much for the guy. Leona was one of them, just beat the piss out of him. But nobody has beat the piss out of him the way Hirotaka Asahisa did. Just walked right through him, kicked him in the head, dropped him, like flying knees, punches. Like he had nothing. And we've spoken about like the potential future opponents for Hirotaka before, and how he's got a really overwhelming physical presence that a lot of people do not have at 60 kg. And you saw his fight with Chain Guy where it was just like this for 9 minutes. But if you don't have Chain Guy's chin, bad news.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, wow. What do you even say? Like, he just walked up and shot him in the head. Like, that was what happened. Like, and you could see the thing that scared the shit out of me. Did you see the look on Murikoshi's face? Like, the camera zoomed in.
What the
to his
fuck
eyes
is
after
happening?
the head kick. Like,
he never recovered.
Never
he was
been
shell
hit
shocked
like that in his life. Yeah, no, like that is exactly the look in your eyes when you just got hit by a fucking mortar. You know what I mean? You just survive by the skin of your teeth, and you're still trying to collect what brain cells you have left. Like, he looked terrified. He's been hit by Leona, and he went down, but you could tell, like, when he went down from Leona, he got up, and you could see he was, like, under his breath, like, fuck, like, gotta get it together. And Takeru, hit him hard, but he always seems to have his composure, even when he gets hurt. He looked like he was like, what the fuck was that? Get me out of here.
Yeah.
After that kick, that was terrifying.
Yeah, like amazing performance. And
I mean, it's got to be Takeru next, right?
Yeah, you consider who was beaten Murakoshi like this. It is, Leona and Tenshin a million years ago, and nobody looked, this impressive doing it. So after the fight, Asahisa just said, I'm getting back home and getting back into training as soon as possible. I'm not interested in fighting on the June card. I want to fight Takeru for the belt sometime this year. Don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. But it may also not be up to him, because even if K1 said, okay, we're game for it in, let's say, September, he owes WLF a title defense this year.
Yeah.
Which is pending. So, and they're actively promoting it. So,
yeah, I don't know how they intend logistically to do that. Is he going to like Skype into the arena and shadow box on the camera? Like,
just do some metaverse like Rocky Trainer game. Yeah, I don't know, but he does owe a mandatory defense this year. So, I think with that hurdle, plus probably K1 being way too focused on the Takeru versus Tenshin fight, not really having the time or energy to care about what to do after that, he's going to have a hard time. He's probably going to have to sit out for a while.
Yeah. Well,
that's what
my personal feeling has always been, win or lose, Takeru retires after the Tenshin fight immediately. And I know he's a pretty driven guy, but once you reach that scale, and I have to presume he's getting paid more for this fight than his typical K1 fights, but, maybe he's not. Maybe all of these, various organizations involved are wetting their beaks, but, how do you climb down from that? And do you really want to fight Hirotaka Asahisa? Like,
I
what
can't
does
speak
it do
to.
for him after the tension fight?
No, I think that's fair. I don't think anybody would hold it against his legacy or whatever if he didn't, and it's only a risk. So from that perspective, yeah, it makes total sense not to do it. Um, I think before I comment on the potential for that fight, I want to see Tension versus Takeru because both of them have looked really weird
Yeah.
in their last couple matches. But I guess I'll just say the preliminary thoughts is I see a lot of people, and again, I'm super biased, right? I'm the karate guy. Of course, I want Hirotaka Asahisa to pull his skull out of his head. That would be great. But and I see a lot of people saying that they think he would beat Takeru, but I think I'm pretty fair and objective most times. I'm not sure that's the case, even with how impressive he's looked, because one thing I do know from following his career all the way since he was like a kid, right, is that he does not do well. Hirotaka Asahisa's kryptonite is unbelievably heavy punchers who can get him on the back foot. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's what we haven't seen in his, admittedly very
well,
impressive K1
he
fights.
lost, right, but not we're not even talking like I don't typically hold Taio's old losses against him because he looks completely different now, and it wasn't that recent. But he lost to Zhu Shuai. I can't pronounce Chinese names at all in WLF not that long ago. And how it happened was he got dropped, getting pushed back by power punches in the first round, and had to play catch up. And he lost to a foreign fighter, I think from France, if I'm not mistaken, in WLF, the same way that if he sort of gets put on the back foot in the first round, he has to play catch up, and he's like a very momentum-based fighter.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have a hard time, and he has a decent chin, but he does not have an iron chin because he's been dropped before multiple times. I would think he would have quite a hard time avoiding that happening against Takeru with how hard he hits.
Well,
but Takeru's looked weird in his last couple fights too,
yeah,
so I want to see first in June. But I'm
I
just saying I'm not as convinced as everybody else that that's a give me that Asahisa would win that because he struggled with that kind of fighter before.
yeah. I mean, what we've seen in his 3K1 fights so far are mostly people who have not had a lot of resistance to offer. But what I personally think is more likely, I mean, he's kind of changed his tune recently, more towards trying to end Koji's life. But the only guy I've seen in the organization who has said that he wants to fight Hirotaka Asahisa is Leona. And he said this for years. Like, immediately after he fought Taio the second time, he said that he wants to fight the other brother. Not that long ago, a couple months ago, he said that he wanted to fight an Asahisa. Didn't specify, but he said that he is willing to fight in both weight categories. And, I think who else is there at 60 that's looking impressive and who you could reasonably slot into a title fight in the event of a vacant title? Those two,
Yeah,
pretty sellable.
yeah, and I think if Takeru retires, that is definitely what they're going to do. It's going to depend if he does or not.
Well,
Yeah,
they will
there's a lot
probably
of
put it
conflicting things
in
on
a
that.
silly tournament format first, but yeah.
Oh God, fucking Christ, you're right. I always forget about I always think when we're talking about what we would do that we're doing what we would do, but yeah, in reality they would do some dumbass shit where they'd have fucking Satoru fight Asahisa the first round, and then when Asahisa breaks his foot, kicking his head off his shoulder, Igawa comes in the finals and wins or something stupid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they
then,
would do that.
so Rukia knocked out a guy that Rukia was supposed to knock out, called out Noidi. Noidi has said that he doesn't have any interest in fighting, Japanese fighters, but, specifically, he was injured when he won that tournament and beat Rukia and stopped him. And now he's not injured. So, I mean, I would always pick Noidi in that fight. I know that Rukia was looking good the first couple rounds, but Noidi doesn't seem to be interested in fighting him. may be interested in fighting Kaito, not the K1 Kaito, the shootboxing Kaito. Well, there are at least two shootboxing Kaitos, but the good one.
There's more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean
So
the one that fought Bait Noah, though, right?
yeah,
That's who you're
yeah,
talking-
yeah. Well,
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
get
yeah.
onto that, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's been calling Noidi out for years. Wants that fight, hopes that it can happen in June. Noidi, not the youngest guy anymore, because I've been watching him since the start of his career, and I'm pretty old myself. So, will he be able to turn around that fast? Maybe, maybe not. But he didn't have much trouble dispatching Kato Kona. Not a surprise. Kona's I like him, but he's clearly like crush caliber guy. He does some interesting things, fights in a slightly interesting way sometimes, but he also did get his face broken by Riki Matsuoka, a guy that Noidi took out with the simplest of ease, because Noidi is a step above all of these guys. And he showed it again. It was a really cool knockout, but it also illustrated something you've spoken about, which is, his corner is his brother and like longtime trainers, people who have a real personal connection to the guy beyond wanting their 20% management fee. So they threw the towel in. He didn't have to get knocked down a third time by Noidi. So he also posted his CT brain scan afterwards and was like, "Hey, look, there's a funny face in my brain." So seems to be taking it pretty well.
Well, I think even he knew that the chances weren't great. Like even in the build-up, he did seem to be super cocky and said, like, "I know that I'm the underdog, but it's like an opportunity I have to take." I don't think he had to. That
no, I mean he gave himself a 1% chance. So
yeah. But like you said, he comes from the Pettis clan. He grew up with Nicholas coaching those guys, and it's his brother and the coaches at the 8 million name gym now. I don't even, because he's got his own. I'm not even going to go down that road. But the spirit gym of Pettis Dojo, like whatever the hell they're calling it these days, change it every week. And they've been together forever, like you said. And they weren't going to let him take a brutal knockout for no reason. I wish more people would do that. But yeah.
So I'm not sure if you've seen this. I think it was in Knockout, but there's a guy who was from one of the satellite spirit gyms. I think it's the spirit gym Sendai. Now he's training at Leona's, but is still repping the spirit gym Sendai. So I think technically he would be Team Top Zero's the spirit gym Sendai, but also the spirit gym Lara Tokyo. Maybe he also trains at Fortuna too. I don't know. So we may have a new contender for longest gym name.
Yeah, just word salad gym. That's what they should call it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he can go fight in Thailand and win by buffer overflow error. Okay, so next is... I could not believe this. It made me very happy, but I just couldn't process it when it happened. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Hideaki Yamazaki has been like this for years. He would just throw himself at you 1,000,000 miles an hour, spinning around, and ran face first into a punch. Got knocked out very quickly. I always expected that I would see Yamazaki lose in the near future in a really sort of horrifying, disappointing way. And I always assumed it would be due to, he's got bad knees. He's had his head broken before. I thought it would be due to like accumulation of his prior injuries. I did not see him getting stopped immediately by I believe one of the French guys called him the hero of the 30-somethings, which is perfect nickname. But yeah, Tetsuya Yamato looked beside himself with joy. I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was fantastic. You probably not so much.
Well, I'm not going to get into like, it's just kind of funny the way it came, because like I didn't watch this live, as you know, and I was literally sitting in a ditch and looking at my phone like 240p, and I couldn't tell what was happening. So I remember I asked you, and you said that he knocked him out with a counter left hook. I remember just like looking at the message you sent me, and like looking up directly into the sun, like hoping my eyes would just burn out. And then I looked down with that black dot in the middle of the screen again. I'm like, there's no way he's trolling me. And that's why I asked you to clarify the dot blinking. I'm like, there's no way. And then you're like, yeah, you got him in like 30 seconds with like a check hook. Man, okay. So that's how I found out about it. I was not happy. All I have to say is this is my takeaway from it. Some people have said Yamazaki's actually older and has taken just as much damage. I think the real culprit here is Crest. Crest is awful, man. Crest, I've been saying this for a while, but I've sort of held back a little bit. Crest is fucking abysmal.
Well, there's a reason
Abysmal.
even Takaru isn't really training there anymore.
Mm-hmm. They're awful, dude. And like their track record keeps getting worse and worse. Like they even proudly showed, like we know why, because he's getting knocked out
Yeah.
training with heavyweights daily. He has no chin anymore when he used to have a granite chin. That's the real victor in this was Crest. Ruined another champion. They like proudly posted a video of Ro Aitaka, who sucks, brutally KOing. Yeah, like Yamazaki goes for like a nothing spin kick in light sparring, and he just floors him as hard as he can with a straight and knocks him clean out.
Yeah, it was
And then they
disgusting.
record it and post it, and they're laughing about it. It's like, where the fuck is the coach during all this? And like I've talked to some people. I'm not gonna name names, but I have someone, you can probably figure out who it is, from the karate world who trains there, who's told me a little bit about what goes on, and they've confirmed to me that this is a daily occurrence, this type of stupidity. I know Luke is very hard on this gym, and I would push back a little bit against him, but no, he's completely right. This gym is atrocious. They kill guys before they even get into the ring. And this is like the worst example of it I've seen.
Yeah, but they have a culture in general, and it's a culture that, Takaru did indulge in, like smashing smaller, younger guys. And, in the case of a guy like Aitaka, he gets 0% better from having, training with a guy who can teach a lot of people a lot of things. Like, how many people in kickboxing are throwing hook kicks? Aitaka's never going to, but it's like a treasure trove of information, and all you're doing is like deleting some of his brain cells in order to get 0% better. And there's another guy, the guy who Tsubaki Hara head kicked to death, Shoya Matsumoto. He's a Crest guy, and he's like always losing horrifically, but taking exactly the kind of like awful, unnecessary knockouts in the ring that didn't have to happen if they just stopped it on the second knockdown. And there's like a callousness at the heart of the gym. And I will say that Crest, we know that they are the favored gym of the K1 organization. We know there are specific reasons. Their trademark, their logo belongs to the K1 holding company. Like, they're not a separate organization. They're the guys. And that's, what they have cooked up for them. And it is not a surprise to me that people who have an eye on like a particular goal, a legacy, whatever, like Takaru setting up his little Harry Potter gym under the stairs, you want to live long, get out of there.
Yeah, and I've, from that same contact that told me about that stuff does go on there pretty daily. And as you said, Takaru, I was told he's the worst of them all for that type of shit. And he had some very choice words for him. But also that there's a very political element to Crest in that a lot of guys go there because that is your, like you said, that is your foot in the door in K1. If you want consistent fights, consistent matchmaking, it doesn't hurt, let's say, to be in Crest. My main concern now is because they've already ruined Yamazaki, as far as I can tell. Takaru, very smart, decided, fuck this, I'm going to go train with Urabe most of the time at Alonso instead of here. Very smart move by him. I'm worried about Yuki Yoza, who's sort of hooked his horse to this gym. I can only hope that he's not getting knocked out by guys twice his size every day. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, but I just hope that the same thing doesn't happen to him because he's never been knocked out. As far as I know, maybe in training, but I hope he sort of sees the writing on the wall too, like you said, and leaves to Ideal Gym or somewhere that could way better accommodate his skill set than these jackasses. I know that's harsh, but I've sort of had enough of Crest and there's the stupidity that keeps. I mean, Mio has gotten a million times worse since going to Crest. We just like, you know, it's consistent now. So I've sort of had it with that group.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, there's a cruel streak running through it, and you know, back when Takeru was a bit younger, he was always posting like videos of himself knocking a guy out in sparring, and that's not something that changes overnight. You know, now he's top dog. He's always on pads. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, right. But yeah, Yamazaki, right? Mio has no chin. She got dropped by spinning back. She used to, you know, be able to take quite a lot of damage. She has looked like shit since going to Crest. And Namito Izawa was known for a great chin, who just very suddenly was getting dropped by every jab. And I've seen videos posted. That's not, you know, inside or anything. Like, they've been posted of him sparring and getting knocked out by guys bigger than him there. They just seem to churn out people's chins before they even get in the ring. And here's another person who's there, Seiya Tanegawa, who magically, since going to kickboxing, has no chin whatsoever. So I don't know, man. It's real shit, in my opinion, and I really hope these people start leaving it, because this is not the way to train. This is not the way to have a long-term career. They don't get paid much to begin with. This shit is just stupid. Yeah. It's just fucking stupid.
And then the 20th and last fight on this card, Seiya Tanegawa fights Mahmoud Satari for the third time in 18 months. Gets knocked out again, but this time on his back, not on his face, sliding under the ring ropes. So, you know, just accumulation.
I just feel so bad for him. Yeah. Nothing he can do. He just doesn't have it to beat Satari. And,
yeah, like the division is just so shallow that, you know, the tide comes in and it's just, oh, look, Seiya Tanegawa like flung upon the rocks of this hard punching Iranian man. It's, yeah, give him something else. And then they had Peter Arch come into the ring and say, "Oh, I'm drunk. I loved it," and it lasted like 3 seconds. So they had, congratulations to whoever booked the flight and organized all that. You really got your money's worth. I hope you weren't comping his beers, but that was K-Festa. It was okay. As expected, predatory matchmaking, a lot of knockouts. That's the K1 usual. But the day before this or the day after this? Anyway, we had Rise. And Rise's big show was also, I was much more interested in this from a matchmaking perspective. But very, very good. Very fun. First fight was Tenshin's little brother. Not that interesting. But, I guess they're going to try and position him, try and keep him away from skateboarding the way it swallowed his sister. That they were also, I don't want to use the word grooming. It has a particular connotation, but...
Fuck, yeah, let's not.
Yeah, let's be honest. They know what they want, and they are, grabbing teenage boys and doing it. He doesn't look super impressive the way Tenshin did, but he looks good. But how many times have you seen a combat sports sibling live up to like the high water mark that a better sibling does? Don't put too much pressure on the kid. Let him be his own guy.
Yeah, I did not watch this card. I missed it. I got clips though from a friend who sent it to me like way after the fact. Didn't see that one at all though, the Nuscut one. Just like the main event stuff I got clips of.
Well, let's go headfirst into tremendous disappointment.
Okay.
Kenta Nanbara. Did you watch a clip or did you watch the whole thing? Because
No, I got a clip of the down where he just sort of stumbled around like a drunk.
so even before that, like this guy whose name I'm still not sure how to pronounce. So
Oliveira.
no, well, they're billing him as Kaliu Gibrain. But he's one of these
But he didn't
guys
take his last name.
from Brazilian Thai, a gym that houses a bunch of not just Brazilians, but people from all over South America. Anyway, he's a guy from the unmentionable sport. He moves like a guy from the unmentionable sport. He did not look good. He did not look smooth, but it was enough. Like, I'd thought in some of Nanbara's fights with, more traditional, fat, unskilled guys that, his boxing doesn't look that bad. And then just faced with a guy who was just going to punch him in the head, everything fell apart immediately. It was really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, every time we talked about Nambara, right? What did I always say?
Well, you always
brought up the
couched it
fact-
like, maybe he's got these skills and whatever, but based on history, you should pump the brakes. And yes, now I've
Yeah.
learned.
Yeah, so he sort of has a track record of doing this, right? He broke out into the scene, going nuts in like the little kids division, and then suddenly started losing like as a teenager. And then when it was sort of like the under 18 stuff, where they were just starting to take the helmet off, he started doing really, really well. He, beat Tenshin a bunch of times in the Kyokushin circuit. Everyone was like, this kid's a phenom. He's going to be the next big thing in Kyokushin. And then he went to the adult divisions and he went to his first world tournament and got annihilated. It's not even enough to say he didn't place. He didn't make it through the first round. He didn't even make it to the televised portion. Just got obliterated by someone from South Africa I'd never heard of. And then just he had a couple All Japan weight appearances where he did okay. And then he got annihilated again in the All Japan Open. Just lost. Didn't do anything amazing. And he kept losing. And it was like a lot of them were like, not, I think I said this before, a lot of them were like nothing decisions where he went out there and he threw punches and low kicks, and the other guy punched him and low kicked a couple more times than he did, so he lost. Just really unimpressive. And then he disappeared, and I hadn't heard from him in a while, and then I was surprised to see him in Rise. And that's why I've been, even though he's won his first 3 fights and sort of styled on all of them, I was a little skeptical because I've sort of been through this cycle with him before. At this point, I do not think it's a skill thing. I don't agree with your assessment on. I think this is mental. I think he's just one of those guys. This is like a cycle now. This is like the 3rd time he's done this. I think this is a mental thing. It's like some of those like hockey players who they get inside their own head and it all goes to shit on them once they get to the NHL and stuff like that. That's honestly what I think at this point. He's got a mental roadblock, or starts to get cocky and lays off training. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but like this is a pattern now. That's why I was pumping the brakes on the hype for this guy.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's got work to do or if he's just always going to have some weird thing going on, but the depth of this division, both in Rise and K1, is pretty shallow, but the distance from the bottom to the top, even though that distance is small, percentage-wise, it's huge. And like just someone who is slightly better than, a overweight part-timer, like just gave him hell. And like I really wanted this guy to be someone who could, get further than 3-0 fat guy knockouts. There's something missing in kickboxing, and it is anyone above 70 kg. And there's factors behind that, but it's a sad thing to see him stumbling around like that. It's a sad thing. Like, it looked like if you got an guy who posts on the internet to write a stereotypical like, what happens when an MMA guy fights a karate guy? It's like, well, of course they can't box, so he gets punched in the head. It was like, oh no, this is like worst nightmare stuff for this guy. So I do hope he comes back. I hope he doesn't just like take off and do something else, but I hope he can figure out what's going on. Anyway, next up, Kan Nakamura, one of the sort of craziest guys, like literally insane. Great counter left straight knockout, looked really good. Then there was the dreaded open finger glove stuff. And I said this and I will say it again. Yaman is too good to be fighting in gimmick fights with stupid gloves. I will also say Rise has a contract with a glove manufacturer to make boxing gloves that are lighter than these gloves that they're using. It is pure aesthetics to get people who are not interested in kickboxing, aka the very thin sliver of the one championship audience that are like, oh, now that this is in tiny gloves, I'm interested. Like, what do you gain from this? Nothing. You have a gimmick which you can put on for a little while and it will disappear. Anyway, pretty thrilling fight. Yaman got dropped unexpectedly, but he won. But he did hurt his own hand. So K1 and Rise had their guys like reciprocally showing up in the crowd, and it was like, well, who are they trying to match this guy up with? Then when he showed up on the K1 show, like his hand was all bandaged up. Like it seemed unnecessary. He took it like a big cut as well because these are stupid gloves with big seams on them that aren't made for this. So as fun as it was, please stop doing it. And if you're really wedded to the idea of using small gloves, use small gloves that are made for the purposes of punching and not for the purposes of grappling. So anyway, I'll shut up about that. And then, unless you have something to say, but other than that...
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Then Taiju Shiratori just looks bored. Looks bad. He won, but like this was a real breather fight on the card. Just sort of nothing happening fight.
I missed this one completely. And because it wasn't a knockout, I didn't get a clip of it either. So.
Yeah. Well, he was just like sleepwalking and very close fight, but one of those things was like, okay, he won, but what did he do? And in an evening where they're like, okay, if you do something impressive, you show up, you get on the mic and you say something, you can get a spot on the biggest card in the past. Like, God, when did Masato retire? Well, since 2009, easily. Like, there's an opportunity here, you can do it. And just nothing happened. And this is a guy who just a couple of years ago was looking like he was going to be Rise's big guy. And then he lost to like Naoki. And just since then, just off the rails, not very good, not very impressive. I don't know what's going on with him.
Well, you said he looked like he was sleepwalking. I mean, it's very rude of you. I mean, he's still trying to wake up from the spinning heel kick to the head that he took from Kento. So like, give him a break. He's still trying to wake up. But it's funny that you say that. I feel like that fight now is just cursed. Like, it actually ruined Rise, because I said a couple times that Kento has not looked the same since that fight, and that he's been chasing that one shot knockout highlight reel moment, like that spinning heel kick he caught Taiju with.
Yeah.
And Taiju's looked like shit since that fight, since taking that shot. So that seems to have just been like a cursed meeting that has completely ruined both their poster boys.
Yeah.
They're both now chasing something after that fight that they can't quite grasp.
Taiju has no confidence and Haraguchi has no fundamentals. So
yep. They both lost something in that fight, and that's what we expect from Japanese kickboxing at this point.
But yeah, speaking of Naoki,
both lose even though 1-1.
Speaking of Naoki, he had a fight against Kosei Yamada. He was looking really good. Like, Naoki dropped, and it wasn't like a really like hard, forceful knockdown, but it was at the end of the round, and it was like, wow. Because I just assumed that, Kosei Yamada was just going to beat the shit out of him. And it was like, holy shit, he's doing it. And then immediate reversal the next round. Like, Yamada just took his head off, and he could not get up. But it was a good fight. It was really worth watching, and everything's uploaded to YouTube now, so no excuses.
No, I saw that fight. I got clips of it sent to me. Yeah, I mean, Naoki's good, right? He has wins over Taiju and for fuck's sake, Sasaki. Like he's got some decent wins. And so I didn't think it was a gimme fight. And he's been around for a while. So I remember when I saw that fight, I was like, okay, good. They're not giving Kosei Yamato, because they've given him a lot of give me fights for the knockouts. So I was happy to see, it wasn't like 10,000-year-old Top Rawan or Yuya for the 30th time. I was happy to see him get like a good quality opponent, and he faced some adversity and he overcame it. Andy Hooks stands supreme once again. I love Kosei Yamada. I think he's to me, he's a relic of the past. And what I mean by that is in the very early days of K1, when people say they miss the golden age of K1, they mean like the middle period in reality. From what I gather, they mean sort of like the Ernesto Hoost.
Yeah, they don't mean the Sato guys.
Era. Exactly. They don't mean the real golden era.
Yeah,
the
they don't
Sato
mean
Kaiken
Satake.
era, where it was like half karate, half glove. And Kosei Yamada is like a relic of that time, where these Sato guys were going back and forth and winning titles in both, and sort of having that swagger and like iron jaw and just going for it and being crowd pleasers. Like he takes me back to that era, and I just fucking love it. He's a relic from the past. There's not many guys that can do that anymore, especially not from Sato Kaiken, which is fractured into a million splinter groups and is very small now.
He's a throwback in more ways than just intro music.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Next was another disappointment. Like Beinoa, I've never been super high on the guy, but he's always been, at least a step above most of the guys he fights. He's been having some sort of dumb fights the last few years, like the green onion guy. And I could get it if he wasn't like, up for that, but he's also been splitting his time. I mean, you've spoken before about how, he was dabbling in the devil sport and saying like, I don't know how these people do it, like using their off days from work. And, he's a guy who is allowed to and is afforded the rare opportunity these days to train full time, but he's now like doing kickboxing, still doing karate, doing like doing comedy shows, doing like, hosting, not hosting as in like trying to not get a 40-year-old Japanese woman to fuck you. I mean like trying to like host a show. But I mean he's juggling like 10 different activities, and he seems to be giving about 20% of his time to each of them, and so he's picking up losses. Yeah,
across
the cracks
the board
are really showing now. And he just like ran straight at Kaito, who countered him immediately, and like he just couldn't deal.
Yeah, I mean he's picking up losses in karate, he's picking up losses in the devil sport, he's picking up losses in kickboxing. Like I've always been hesitant. I celebrate the guys who could do it, like Francisco Filho and Kosei Yamada, who can do both karate and kickboxing, but I've always said on this show, probably not the best idea to do both. Or at least I think the solution is to switch over, do glove karate if you want to do both. At least keep the rules as similar as possible, or go to FICA, something with glove rules. But there are guys who've been able to manage it, and it's cool when they do. I still don't recommend it, but Beinoa has now taken that to like just an unbelievable extreme. He's doing literally 5 things at once now. And we're not talking about like having a couple hobbies on the side. Like he's trying to fight at a professional level in 3 different martial arts styles now, plus doing comedy shows. And I don't know anything about that stuff, but imagine he's got to write routines and material. Like I don't care if you're full-time, you don't have to work. This is way too much, and it's showing now, and he's got to pick.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the devil sport, or do you want to do this? There's enough.
Yeah, he's looking less Bo Jackson and more Hobo Jackson.
Yeah.
So
it's not good.
Yeah.
He's way better than this.
Yeah. Well, I do hope he drops some of the things from his busy schedule, whatever that
Yeah, to
works
me, you
out
should
to
just
be.
do kickboxing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anyway, Shiro versus Ryabata. Shiro, a guy who, on a personal level, I think is fantastic, but in the ring sometimes a little boring. But he's also had some real good years. Like, he had a fight with Masahiko Suzuki in the tournament that he won. That year he had, I think, the fastest knockout in kickboxing. He also dropped Suzuki. And then he had like a great fight with Kazane when he had like both of his hands broken. But wow, this fight he just decapitated Ibata with a head kick.
Oh, I loved it. I love Shiro, and that was awesome.
Yeah,
I
like,
don't have anything cool or technical or any analysis to add. That was just awesome. I loved it.
yeah, and like the fight after this was Suzuki versus Ibata's brother. But they had Akihiro Kaneko in the crowd, and they seemed to be like trying to set him up with Suzuki, which would be, like an insane fight. They're both kind of crazy, big hitting, like safety last kind of guys. But I want to see Shiro get some shine in June, and I think, he's the right weight. He's a guy who does deserve, he's put time in. He's done real well. And every time he does well, the disadvantaged do well out of it. So give this guy a spot.
No, absolutely. I think they should give him Murakoshi, and they can just circle each other and look longingly into each other's eyes, waiting for a punch to counter that never comes.
Oh man, I was there trying to like gas the guy up, and now you're making me remember that he can be hellishly boring. Like, come on, man.
I love Shiro. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I love him. I don't necessarily always love his fights, but I love this one. Anyway, Masahiko Suzuki just runs straight at Mutsuki Ibata. This is his thing. Like, does not care how bad of a position it puts him in. He will run at a guy head first, throw like 10 punch combinations. It is great to watch. It is ill-advised, but it does look like they're trying to set him up with Kaneko, which again would be a great fight, but maybe Ibata can't knock you down, but do not run face first into Akihiro Kaneko. He's a little tank. But I would love to watch that, assuming that it's not some like region blocked pay-per-view, so we'll see. But yeah, I don't know if you have much to say about this, but Suzuki's with
Nope.
These
I
weird
didn't see it, so
adjacent guys who train like maniacs, and surprise, they've got a little maniac in their gym, so cool. And then Kento against the gimme Thai guy, and he's still, I'm still not sure how much of a knockdown this really was. He protested it, but still in a fight where there's a guy who's, put in there the same way, live food is put into a zoo enclosure to feed a like bloodthirsty animal. He was there to lose and he lost. But, Kento still managed somehow to take some negativity from it. And I just, after seeing that Petch fight, I just want to see the guy not spin around for once, just stay on your feet, throw some punches, throw some kicks, like just dispatch of a guy without trying too much. Show that, you know where the weaknesses are. This is Taiju's fault.
no, that's exactly what I'm saying. That fight is cursed. Both guys went into that fight. That was a great fight to determine who's the number one guy, who's going to be the next guy for Rise. And somehow they've both lost coming out of that. Haraguchi got a huge spinning heel kick down that he's been chasing ever since, like a rabid dog. And Taiju's lost all his confidence in his chin from getting clipped with it. It's unreal. That fight ruined both of them. Kento, go back and watch his old fights. Go watch the highlight reel I did of him on my YouTube channel. He was combo heavy. Stay in front of you, combo heavy. right? Lots of hands, lots of head movement, lots of kicks, switch kicks. He wasn't flying all over the place with spinning heel kicks and rolling thunders all the time. Like, and he certainly was not brawling, throwing huge haymakers like crazy. I mean, he had guys hurt and he would jab them up against the ropes and then axe kick them in the face to down them. Where the hell is that guy? Like, now he's just literally ducking his head down and just swinging wildly. He's just been that looking for that one hit quit every fight since then, and he's looked terrible. Again, I watched the clip after the fact at like 240p on my shit internet on my phone, so I just don't have access to that stuff right now. But so like you said, that's the negative takeaway. But that definitely wasn't a down as far as I could tell. But again, I'm watching 240p. It wasn't a down. He just slipped, swinging wildly like an idiot. He wasn't hurt at all. He wasn't wobbling when he stood up. I don't think that was a real down. But also, the down, air quotes, that he got on Lompech to win the fight wasn't a down. The guy was still standing up. I think they got scared again, like the Taprowan fight, and just decided to call it. So there's 2 downs back to back that weren't real downs. Like I don't even know where to next. Next, what do you even say at this point?
The change that has occurred in his style has it brings an element of neither. Well, there's only one guy in the ring who has his feet firmly under him, and that's the referee, and it leads to stuff like that.
It's been a fucking disaster. He needs to stop this. Someone's got to tell him, go back to your old style.
Well, I mean, I would hope, because they were trying to set him up with Yamazaki, that he sees that he was walking down the Yamazaki path, and that maybe he doesn't want to get knocked out by a 48-year-old guy who once won a tournament in 2002. But we'll see. Maybe that's his fetish. I don't know. But main event, Tenshin versus Kazane. Kazane, a pretty wild, pretty energetic guy, but is too small to really hurt people. We saw this in the Shido fight. Like, he goes for it. It's a scrappy young guy, fun to watch. But even when he was like clipping Tenshin, getting him like pretty clean, just doesn't have enough behind him to do much. And he really put everything into this. And people are giving Tenshin shit about it. I don't think Tenshin lost, but Kazane gave a good account of himself, but not particularly impressive by Tenshin. But Tenshin's kind of a victim of his own standards now. So, he's had 1 million fights in the last few years. How many of those is he really impressed in? It's like some of the pointless fights against guys like Yuki. Hard to look impressive in this fight unless you're just going to stomp the guy out. But Kazane, did not go there to lose. He still lost, but he was devastated not to at least get a draw. Like, he really, really, really went for it. And I think, the purpose of this fight was not to, big tension up for the next fight. The purpose was, this is his last fight in Rise, and they want to pass the torch. I want to say, this is potentially one of our new guys. And yeah, from that perspective, pretty good. So I don't know. I don't know if you have anything to say about the fight. It was, fun, but I think people take away the wrong message from it. Anyway.
This is the only fight I actually saw in full from this card. So, okay, where do you even start with this? Number one, obvious, is that Tenshin seems to be incredibly negatively affected by the fact that he's primarily training and focusing on transitioning to boxing.
Yeah.
His kicks have completely disappeared. His footwork is shit now. His head is like constantly past his feet, and he's sort of slipping and sliding a lot now, I notice, when he's punching. I think going back and forth is really screwing him up. It sucks to see his kicks sort of disappear. Kazane is a great fighter. he's had some unbelievable wins lately. So I don't think this was a give me. This was like a really, really good test. I think he would be a really, really good test for Takaru even too. Like this is one of the top guys. So you got to take that into consideration. Tension still won. I don't think there were a few people I think that were saying they thought he didn't win this. No, come on now. He won it. But wasn't crazy impressive. But you got to wonder too how motivated he was for this when he's got Takeru on the horizon and boxing too. Like it seems to me his last couple fights have been a product mostly of he's already got a foot out the door. And I think it's very, very difficult to do this sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, no matter how good you are. It's just a really weird limbo place to be, and I think we're seeing it in his performances.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned his kicks, which have basically evaporated, except he will like once or twice throw a big jumping, spinning thing, which whiffs, and then he goes back to boxing. It is, he's not the guy of a few years ago, and I don't blame him. Like economically, it makes sense. You can be, an attraction in boxing and make way more than he's making for this, but it is.
Yeah, he's trying to get out and keeps getting pulled back in is the problem.
Yeah.
He wants out. You can tell he doesn't really care about this Takaru shit. Like you could tell he could take it or leave it in a way that Takaru can't.
Yeah, he's just tying up the ends of his promotional relationships.
Exactly. And it shows, right? It shows. But I don't think that bodes well for the fight with Takeru if he's like, I mean, if there was a time to course correct the ship, I think it had to have started before this fight to be ready for Takeru.
It cannot start 2 months before the fight. Like he needs, I don't know. It's but yeah, like Takeru is like a rabid dog. He is like so hyper focused and motivated on his legacy. He wants nothing more than to win. Tension, I won't say he doesn't care. He's obviously, an athlete who has a tremendous amount of, passion for what he does. But what he does now is boxing.
Yeah, like I think if it was up to him, he would have gone to boxing like a year ago.
Yeah.
And he's just been, like you said, tying up loose ends. And I think he sort of feels trapped into doing this stuff. But yeah, I still don't know what to make of that fight because Takeru's looked kind of weird in some of his recent fights too. Like he looked really good against Leona, who sort of heavily plays into what he's good at. But remember, and people like to deny this for some reason, he got dropped by Leona.
Yeah.
So it was not at all a flawless performance.
Well, not just that, like until the last 10 seconds of the first round, the best shot that Takeru landed was a kick to the balls. Like the first round really did not go good for him outside of that tremendous knockdown.
Yeah. And like an obviously intentional groin kick too. Like it's pretty blatant.
The way he shuffles forward, like what was your target if it was not his ball sack?
No, that was 100% intentional.
Yeah.
But
that's another story. But I think that's also something we see a lot of in kickboxing in Japan. But the thing that really stuck out to me in his exhibition with Gunji is.
That was where I was going next.
Yeah, like a guy with a speed advantage. There's only so much you can draw from an exhibition, but what I did draw was people are faster than him, and Tenshin is a fast young guy.
No, yeah, like the Gunji one again, I would caution taking too much from it because it is an exhibition. He probably didn't train or focus that hard for it. But they've both not looked as good as they have in recent times. I'd say Takeru's looked better because he did beat Leona, which is like a huge win in his career, and he knocked him out convincingly. He won that fight convincingly, but he did get dropped. The ref didn't call the down because of how they dropped each other at the same time, but he did get dropped. And then, I don't take much from the exhibition. That Gunji did look like he got a little bit better of him, but again, different gloves. They're wearing shin guards doesn't mean anything. Takeru's looked like we've talked about a little weird in his fights, and then. I think he lost to Murakoshi.
Yeah, and Murakoshi, is also a southpaw, also, a bit more a technical guy, not like a wild man like Leona. It's, everybody seems to be saying, oh yeah, Takeru's going to win. I don't think it's like a safe bet for either guy.
I favor Takaru because, like I said, he still has both feet in the door and he's super motivated, and he has the bigger win. And he did win convincingly against Leona, who I think's one of the top guys in that weight class. A super impressive win at the end of the day. But both of them have chinks. Like they both looked in. What I'm trying to get at is they both looked invincible. 2-3 years ago, where like you couldn't even touch them. And now for both of them, I think more for Tension. You're seeing chinks in the armor. The lack of kicks, the sort of lackluster decision ones. And then for Takaru, the arguable loss to Murakoshi, and then sort of chin getting touched a little bit by Leona, and then not looking amazing in the exhibition. Again, you can't take much from that, but they both don't look as invincible as they used to. But I still think Takaru, with his focus, is going to come out like a bat out of hell. And I think with Tension having lost a lot of his kicks, I think it's going to be really hard to keep him off him. So I think I favor Takaru to win that still. But again, like I said, they both don't look as good as they used to. So it's a hard one.
Yeah, and
I wish this fight had happened a while ago.
Yeah.
Before this stuff.
Yeah. But there's, a whole bunch of weird circumstances. Rules, big one. We'll address that when I find a cheap pair of pants to soil.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
I told you.
Oh, man, I should have listened.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably just talk about that now because we've already been talking about it for a while. But so they announced that it's going to be 3x3 with one extension, and it's a sudden death extension. Yeah. So it's not going to be 5 rounds. I told you it wasn't going to be. And Dogman replied to me, and I quote, "I will shit myself on the show if it's not 5 rounds."
Now hold on. I never said on the show.
Look, I have the text messages. They're totally not edited. I'll be releasing them soon.
Well, look, I got to say, I wish the crack team was not a crack team. I could have wiggled out of this.
So, I mean, disappointing, but not surprising to me. One thing I do want to bring up about this, very strangely, I did get to take a little peek at Twitter recently. I haven't been on there in forever. A lot of people were saying that this is like obvious bias in favor of Tension.
Yeah, Tension, the guy that's fought 5 rounds multiple times.
Sense. That is a huge cope. Like that was a gross amount of cope. Because Takaru, as far as I know, has never fought 5 rounds.
No.
And
maybe in Thailand.
A ton of 5 rounds.
Maybe he's fought 5 in Thailand, but yeah, like in kickboxing,
right.
no,
yeah,
never.
Yeah. But like Tension's the guy who's fought 5s.
Yeah.
And I feel like for a guy who has to weather the storm of the power puncher, like it's not to Tension's favor for it to be only 3, where Takaru has less time to worry about conserving energy. That was weird to me. Like, yeah, that's obviously in Takaru's favor, in my opinion.
Well, I think people are thinking of this too much in the terms of 2 guys fighting each other and not 2 organizations fighting each other. And K1 has always been against the idea of 5-round fights.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's obviously their influence. What could be more in Tension's favor is they did say it was going to be Rise rules. But I don't think it not being 5 rounds is somehow like them trying to rig it in Tension. That doesn't make no sense.
No. Well, I mean, we can get into the minutiae of the difference with the Rise rules some other time. I think we've been nearly 2 hours at this now, but I personally think that favors Takaru, but we can squeeze some juice out of that berry some other time, I think.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway, it has been a pleasure as always. Now I have to retreat to the world in which I have to plan soiling myself. Any last words?
No, I mean, these cards were pretty good. I'm waiting to see what happens with this K1 versus Rise event that they're going to build underneath Takaru versus Tension, which I think is honestly more interesting than that fight in and of itself. I think they could do a lot of cool stuff with that. I'm kind of scared they're going to screw it up, but I think we have a lot to look forward to on that end.
Yeah, they say 10 to 15 fights. Cross
Mhm.
promotional sounds great. Let me buy it.
Yeah. I'm trapped behind a paywall on us.
Yeah, so hopefully we have some announcements about that in the next few weeks, and I suspect we shall talk again.
Absolutely. Los